with us. If you can just highlight them, spotlight them, I mean, and let me just introduce both of them as well. Thank you so much for joining Sister Antonella and Sister Radha. You all are not new to our audience, but it's my right to introduce both of you again to our audience. And first, let's start with Sister Antonella. She is truly Italian, born in Tuscany, and she came into, Brahma Kumaris incidentally in Japan in 1988. And also she studied Oriental language as well and culture. And while studying at the university, she also established and ran a successful fashion business in Sardinia, which is south of Italy. And she has been involved in opening and also managing various VK centers of Milan, Olivia, and Bologna. Bologna is where she currently is. And she's also the main organizer of 4 international forums of spirituality and arts in Sardinia. And also we had this Living Values project. She had promoted that very actively in Italy. She is very much the member of the NCT, that is the national coordinating team we have all over the world. And she's written 3 books on spirituality and recorded many guided meditations, I'm sure, in the language of Italian. And she is in Bologna, and she's still teaching communication in a school and negotiation skills in trade unions. So this is about her. And then we have Sister Radha. Again, she's based in Rome, Italy. She was introduced to Raj Yoga. She's given me a very brief bio about her, so I don't know much about her that way. But I'll try to cover whatever 4 lines she sent. That in her childhood in India, where she grew up. So she's very much Indian, body-wise, and she deepened her practice in UK and subsequently in Italy, where now she currently coordinates the activities of the center in the capital city, Rome itself, and together with her professional work, where she is based at a Rome-based United Nations agency. She actively, both of them still work. So, as always, a poem on the value of transparency, and for both of them. So both the sisters exhibit in their interactions a lot of transparency by maintaining relationships with utmost decency. You can approach them freely without any hesitancy and can share with them openly without any precipitancy. That's because spirituality has taught them this efficiency, which portrays perfection and leaves no chance of any deficiency. You'll see through their actions, they teach us how to get rid of complacency so that we don't end up having spiritual bankruptcy. It is only by remembering the divine with a lot of frequency, which means a lot of times, that we can experience in our life a lot of abundancy. Life which otherwise gives a feeling of redundancy, with the Supreme's touch, gets converted into utmost proficiency. And in my mind, well, proficiency is our next value. So over to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Manoj. And first of all, a big appreciation for these kind of events that stimulate all of us to churn. So great job. And I'm so happy to be with all of you and together with Radha, which is my dear sister. We are in the same country. So Radha, first basic, easy question. What's transparency for you?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Manoj Bhai and everyone else present as well. And it's also really nice to be here again and in a different way, this time with a conversation. So with Antonella, which is great. So yeah, actually this topic is something that has been close to my heart, in fact, and has come up even in recent years as something to think about and to reflect on. And I looked at, actually, I find it quite interesting. So I looked up in the dictionary, what is transparency? And I found a very, very beautiful definition of it where it says it's the quality of allowing light to pass through so that objects behind can be distinctively seen. And so to me, transparency is really allowing myself to be seen or allowing an aspect, a process, or something to be clearly visible. So, in other words, not hiding or blocking or avoiding, but just letting something be very, very clear. And of course, there are many, many different aspects about transparency. But just to start off with that definition as being very close to clarity, allowing the light of truth or of knowledge to pass through without any obstructions, because there are no obstructions. And so that's the condition of being transparent. So, and what about you, Antonella? What did you see as transparency?
Yeah, it's actually a very interesting topic, especially because we live in a world where transparency is really rare. So common to hide things, have a second agenda, cheating. I don't know in your countries, but here it's very common. And it has become normal. So talking about transparency is like talking about big, huge, special topic. For me, transparency means the light is on. Often in souls, the light is off. And transparency begins when I switch the light on and the journey begins towards the true self, towards me. It's incredible that we live. That was my first thoughts when I started to learn about Raja Yoga. And I came to know I'm a soul, something simple. But I thought I remember thinking, gosh, I live, I am, and I don't know who I am. So to go back to the awareness of and revealing myself to myself, because that's the biggest adventure. If I can reveal myself to myself, and of course to people, and that's transparency, and not pretending to be something else that I'm not. And it's so valuable, just and so freeing to be you and nobody else, and not pretending. In other words, and here we have a saying that to be open like a book, to be like an open book. That means people can see through you and can see clearly your intention. And I think this is such a valuable interconnection between people when you can see their intention, they can see your intention, and that's transparency. And the opposite actually is to be opacity. I don't know if I pronounce it properly. And opacity means it's like when the water is murky, a lot of mud and dirt, and you can't see through. And the lack of cleanliness in that case is like the amount of layers that block the light to go through from me outside and from outside within. So, and I think within time, for half a cycle, we've been building up layers of blockages, of mud, of whatever, that are not allowing my true light to shine out, and vice versa. And everything has become very foggy. And that's why in relationship, there are so many misunderstandings. Sometimes using words can, create even more problems. And that's an indicator of how foggy we became, how dusty we became. And I'm so grateful to Baba for the immense value of knowledge. I think transparency is actually included in all the 4 subjects that Baba gives us. Knowledge, understanding the truth, and truth, being truthful, is transparency. And we are getting ready, preparing ourselves for the age of truth, Sati. Actually, I remember being in London many years ago at the beginning of my journey, and Gentiban was giving a class, and she asked, we were not many people there, and she asked, how do you visualize, how do you see a deity? And I remember replying, transparent, a transparent being. And then she asked me, checking if I was meaning invisible, she asked me, what do you mean about transparency? And I replied, and I still remember, interesting, I replied, they are so clean in and out that there is no difference between what I am and what I express and what people see. So fully clean and pure. And that's, for me, was the understanding of transparency. And so through knowledge, this is what we become. And yoga, transparent connection with God, with a sincere heart. I cannot fake with God. It will be extremely silly. So I can only be true to my Father. And Dharna is the integrity in action. I find the integrity is very much connected with transparency and service. A honest heart in the way I use my energy and my resources. That's the quality of service that I can do for Baba and for the family. So just few thoughts about transparency, but then I can ask Radha, what are the qualities that you think are connected with transparency? Because transparency is a container, like so many qualities, as you shared before in your beautiful sharing earlier. Transparency is like a container, many qualities are included. So Radha, what qualities do you see within transparency?
Yeah, thank you, Antonella. Very interesting story also about how naturally you were able to just perceive transparency even at the beginning of your spiritual journey. And I was thinking just actually how transparency is really like a condition, one of the natural conditions, which maybe is very much connected with purity, actually, thinking about it, that it's possible to be transparent only when there is that purity, which is of course, one of the main qualities of our original condition. Um, and so certainly that's one thing. I was also thinking then that, however, it's a whole other subject to be transparent with other people, And so that's where the quality of honesty comes in, is am I able to, use that, I don't know, also the humility to acknowledge that at the moment, maybe there isn't that original condition of purity or transparency. And so therefore, I can be honest and humble to be able to realize that that is my journey, that I'm working towards that full transparency. And was also thinking that to be transparent, maybe especially for other people, especially in a group in a group setting, or with some friends or with colleagues, then I need to have a lot of sensitivity, so that I need to know when is the right moment, when to be transparent, when to be, in a sense, to be silent, when to step forward, when to step back, because I think that it's one of these qualities that needs to be balanced, and we'll maybe look at that later. But certainly, one other thing about transparency is that we need to be fearless, or have courage, really, because of the same thing, that to actually allow the light of truth to shine inside means that I'm going to see, and maybe other people are going to see, that part of me that is not so beautiful, is not so shining, or that is opaque, and to be able to, do I have the courage to see that? First of all, look at that, and to let God's light look into, to let God's eye look at me. And so to make myself so completely visible to God as well. Of course, which means then, as I think Antonella was saying as well, it means that we make ourselves visible to ourselves. And so I think in terms of transparency with other people, it's about having a cleanliness of intent. So why would I, be open or honest about something to someone? I need to ask myself, what's my intention behind this? Am I just trying to show something? Sometimes it's easy also to try to look good, to look like, yes, I'm telling you, I'm trusting you. But actually, is that really what's going on? And so the purity of intent, I think, is very important, is that I can really check and see what is my intention for sharing something. And I like very much this acronym, actually, the acronym of think before I say something that's maybe important, or I know that's going to have an impact. Maybe you've come across this acronym, but T is for, is it truthful, to ask myself, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it interesting? Is it necessary? And is it kind? So this is THINK. So think before you speak, and especially because otherwise, there's no need to be transparent if there isn't something to be transparent about, because in our original condition, it's so normal just to, there's nothing to hide. But it's when there is a lot of corruption and a lot of hidden agenda and old patterns that we need to practice, I think, being transparent, and in that sense where it's not just plain honesty, but it's the transparency with wisdom, and with the ability to discern. So I don't know, what about you? Were they the same qualities that you saw, Antonella, or were they different ones?
You made a wonderful list of qualities. I was also thinking of honesty very much. It sounds very appropriate, and integrity, sincerity, authenticity. I think they're all very related to. It seems that is a big container. And I agree that when there is a lack of honesty, for example, then we tend to blame other people, like, because of you, I feel like that. And then, of course, transparency is gone. It's like honesty for me is not responding to people's mistake with other mistakes. So if I respond to a mistake with a mistake, then I'm lacking that responsibility that will make me transparent. Taking my own responsibility is a mean to become transparent. And in terms of practice, like how can I become more transparent, more honest in a way, and therefore more humble, more responsible, more fearless, all the wonderful qualities that you mentioned. In my experience, when something happened, instead of hunting for a guilty one, which is, it could happen, use that situation to settle karma. I really value the law of karma enormously, because I think at the end of the cycle, unless we clean and clear karma, we won't be able to reach the goal properly. And so if I understand the situation, interpret it as a settle of karma, and I watch which sanskara are moving me in the wrong direction within a reaction, or hunting the guilty one, then I can be in control, more in control of myself, and churning the opposite virtue that I need to improve. So for me, the practice of churning, I find it essential, but churning specifically the opposite virtue of the sanskara that is acting wrongly and making me doing something wrong. And because being honest with the self implies that I take my own responsibility. And when I take my own responsibility and I finish there, like I stop there, what do I do with that burden? And I can become depressed or discouraged or hopeless. But if I use the churning power to churn, right, I've got these bad sanskara, and old sanskara is not me, it's something that I acquired, but what's the virtue behind? And then I become busy in the right direction, in the right way. It's like shifting my energy in a mindset that will build strength. And it's difficult to be transparent and being weak. If I'm weak, I will never be transparent. I cannot manage. So if I want to be transparent, I need to be strong. And strength is built inside myself through, for me, through yoga, of course, but through churning also. Understanding deeply what is going on and what is the real me and the beauty of myself, really deeply, eternally, and my eternal strength. And therefore I become economical. And honesty is a way of being economical. I'm not wasting too many thoughts in thinking what people are doing and what they are not doing. So becoming economical, it's an aspect of honesty, and therefore is an aspect of transparency. And if I use everything I have as a trustee, and I think that that was also something that Wadi and Jenna last week mentioned. If I use everything as a trustee, then I make it worthy, and that kind of honesty will lead to abundance. And when I feel the abundance of everything, it's like feeling protected. And if I feel protected, I can be transparent because I don't fear challenges. When we close and we are not open, transparency is being open. But when we close inside and down because of fear, but if I feel protected and safe, and abundance gives me that feeling, then I can be transparent. I have nothing to lose. Actually, in transparency, I don't lose anything. I'm only gaining trust from people. I'm only gaining goodness. And therefore, the practice
So,
here.
Antonella,
Yep.
No, sorry, Antonella, just to ask you as well, do you think you can be, or one can be too transparent? Is there something that would balance it out? What do you think would be some of the things that keep transparency in balance?
If I think of golden age, there is nothing at the other side of transparency, because that's a state. It's a condition of being. But now, at the confluence age, the perspective is a bit different. Like if I become too transparent when I'm not fully pure, I can be hurting, or I can be too showing. I don't know, I can be too vulnerable. And maybe I'm not ready for that vulnerability. So at the other side of the scale, if we think of a scale of the balance of virtues, then vulnerability is one side, on the other side is discernment. And because I need to see where I'm at and where people are at around me, because I cannot be fully on board if people will mislead or misuse what I'm sharing. So just discernment, I think, that will prevent damages, emotional damages at some point. At least that has been my experience. But what is for you on the other side of transparency in terms of a positive opposite?
Yes, yes, I also think discernment and maybe connected with that is wisdom, which is really applied knowledge. Because I think that we can come to that balance by asking questions like, what or how much does someone need to know in order to make a complete decision, in order to have the information they need so that they can respond, in a balanced way, or they can, they can make a response that's in a way fair, or shall we say, accurate. And I think this is where it's interesting, because we had a recent experience as well, where there was some big change in one of the situations within the country, and which is quite long and complicated, and was continuing for a number of years actually. And then at one point, the whole thing, the situation changed. So it, in a sense, it ended. And so, of course, we needed to, we realized that we needed to share something with the family, with the rest of the BKs in the country. And so I found that it was a very interesting exercise to actually find that balance between giving the information and not going into the details that are going to create a lot of waste thoughts, but not giving any untruths either. And so I found that it was a very very interesting and very, the way I saw it, was a very successful experiment on being able to balance transparency with discernment and with wisdom, and with sensitivity somehow. I think that all of that needs to be the ingredients. And I liked very much what you were saying, that you need the balance now in the confluence age, or at this time when we're coming back to to balance. Whereas when it's a natural condition, of course, we don't need any balance. And certainly transparency is one of the, as I was mentioning earlier, I think it's very much connected with purity. And so yes, that's very interesting. And maybe also, just another question is, like you were suggesting, you were mentioning earlier how to come back to that transparency within the self, but also maybe in terms of relationships. What do you think, whether it's a service relationship, working relationship, or the people that maybe one lives with, what do you think are some of the things that can help us to be transparent, to the right degree, shall we say, in those, in particular within relationships?
Yeah. Something that comes in my mind is integrity, which is an incredible energy, like strong integrity is it's not being corruptible. Integrity for me means that I'm not corruptible, and therefore I stop compromising my principle and using the currency of love and pure feelings. I think it touches us very much every time that in the Murli there is the point of having pure feelings and good wishes for everyone. And what more transparent than that? If I can clean my heart to such a level that the currency of love is the only currency I use. And that's the process of really getting ready to be an angel, who only use that currency. And apart from integrity and not being corruptible in a world that is totally corrupt, that's why I think at the end it will be so visible, the difference between those who have been working on the self and those who didn't. Because it's like the light that will shine through people that are working on their own integrity and not becoming corrupt in any form, in any way, will be enormous. And also sincerity, to be without masks, sincere, without walks, so without any mask. I don't know if you remember the Living Values period, when within the manual of the Living Values there was a story. I don't remember much because there's so many years went by, but I do remember this story. Can I share it? It's a very short story, but I love them. And it's the story of a king that called a notice to find the heir to the throne. He had no son or daughter. So he called everyone to the court and gave them a seed, saying that in 1 month later, whoever brought the vase with the most beautiful flower would become the heir to the throne. So there was a young girl that was very enthusiastic, like everyone, of course, and she planted the seed with a lot of love, but nothing came out. So disappointed, 1 month later, when everybody were going to the court, she went with the pot was just full of soil and nothing sprout. But she decided to go anyway. And there were many beautiful flowers, colorful, presented to the king, who admired everything with a lot of respect and great joy. But then she called this young girl with her empty pot and declared her the heir to the throne, because she was the only one that revealed itself to be honest and sincere, because all the seeds were toasted, so unable to germinate. So she was the only one sincere. And I love this story because often we fear being sincere, like telling the truth, being honest, being transparent could lead, that's the idea, to a loss, while eventually transparency and truthfulness will only lead to gain. And this, I think, is something to remember. I can only gain through being transparent, through being sincere. And whatever happens, I'm not going to lose. At least I'm not losing my dignity, which is the biggest value I have. And it's like surrender the pride or the selfishness to honesty, to sincerity, knowing that greatness will surrender to me. And it's like choosing a front. Which front am I choosing? An immediate gain or a long-lasting gain? And transparency is very clear about which front is going to choose. One practice that I can share, and then I will ask you, Radha, to share practice also, is that instead of judging and becoming a judge, to sit silently in front of the mirror of my own consciousness and review whatever has been happening in the relationship, because the main field where we can pretend and lack of honesty or whatever, not being very transparent, that big field is relationship. So instead of judging within those relationships, sit silently in front of the mirror of my own consciousness and review what hurted me, and to change that frame of mind, that mindset that has been not really facilitating my growth, and replace it. And it's a specific exercise. I will see myself acting in the right way instead of the wrong way, and I keep replaying that image, that photogram, I don't know how to call it, in my mind, so that I shift it, I replace it. And I find this very useful, because if I play in my mind the film of what I like to be, I actually re-evoke from inside what I actually am, and facilitate the inner quality to emerge. Do you have any practice to share, Radha, to become more transparent and humble? Radha is very humble by nature. It's a real quality. So she can share something important about that.
I think it's your vision, Antonella. But anyway, we're all work in progress in that subject, I think. But yes, I mean, I also very much connect with the conscience. So the conscience as that voice that I go to ask, do I have the best interests of this person or that person or myself or God? Do I have the best interests in my heart when I'm doing a particular action or giving a particular response? Then it's like this checking, and I think that's what it is in the silence, is to check and take the time to stop and look. Because often when things happen, and I think that this is something also to consider, that how do I deal with being at the receiving end of a lack of transparency? So one thing is me being transparent with someone, maybe me being in a position of making decisions or coordinating things. But what about when I'm at the receiving end and I'm not told the whole story? Or sometimes it happens in the workplace, is that often that's the decisions are made at a higher level and they filter down, and everyone has to follow that, with whether they like it or not. And often the very normal response is bitterness or discontentment, a lot of gossip and complaints, and that's of course the normal response. And and of course, when I see that happening, I ask myself, what is my response in all of that? You know, and especially in the workplace as well. As Manoj I mentioned, that I'm still in this big office environment, and so it's a big bureaucratic machinery where this kind of thing often happens. And to me, it's like trusting that I will find the best solution and that what needs to happen will happen. Somehow the trust of the benefit of the way things are going. So it doesn't just mean a kind of a blind acceptance, but because it might also mean making some decisions that, okay, so if this is the situation which I can't change, then I am going to put a boundary, and this is my position. And so I think it's also important when I'm at the receiving end of a lack of transparency to decide what is my position, under the circumstances. So without complaining or getting bitter or wanting them to change or they should tell us, often there's that kind of feeling. But it's like, okay, that's the situation. Where am I? What is my place? What are going to be my choices? And that's where I think trusting the self, and I think in fact this word trust maybe hasn't yet come up in the context of transparency, is that I think we can't demand transparency from other people, but it needs to come through the basis of some level of trust. And if the trust is not there, then at least one side needs to have the vulnerability to take the risk, to be transparent, a little bit transparent, so that, and test out, the group or the side or whatever is going on. And so in that, when I'm at the receiving end of a lack of transparency, I think that, okay, so what can I do to build the trust? Or at least what can I do to not break it down further? So it's sometimes that's the starting point. And so yes, for me the most important practice is listening to my conscience, checking in with myself, and again checking my intention, and realizing that in fact, if I want to be a companion and a trustee in service with God, then if I have the best interests of other people, then that is what will bring about the best outcome, whatever it looks like. So it's interesting to notice that as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with the idea of trust. Such an incredible energy. And you made me think of a situation that I had to deal with, a professional liar. Do you know any professional liar? Chronic liar. It's an interesting personality traits. And if this person would say lies, even when it was not necessary, just because it is a sanskara. So somebody that's been lying many, many times and has become a sanskara, he will lie even when he doesn't need it. And the feeling I had was being not valued because of being cheated, understanding that it was a lie and there were many lies. And then I realized that that person was deeply hurt from childhood with a violent and abusive father. And he was actually protecting himself due to the fear he developed from childhood. So the sanskara of denying, falsifying information was very strong and led him to saying lies all the time. So the response at the receiving end, as you said, was just to try to understand the root of that and the hurt, the one that was behind, and thinking I can trust this person because only trusting it will provide strength. It's like empowering the other soul through giving trust. And so in many cases, the feeling was, I trust you, I believe in you, I appreciate you, and not accusing, not blaming, but giving the strength to reinforce the soul. And within time, I saw the attitude of lying reducing a lot. Still there, but much, much less. So I think trust is an incredible way of empowering people and remaining safe within the self. Because I protect myself in a way when I trust myself and people. So it's such a very much connected with transparency.
In fact, interesting. You mentioned this thing about the lying and the protecting. Because yes, I think what came up in the last conversation with Sister Wadi and Jenna is that it's not about being naive. So when we when we hear someone who's not being transparent, and we recognize that. I think it's about, yes, recognizing it, knowing it, but without falling into the trap of blaming and judging or criticizing rather. And yet at the same time, seeing, like you were saying, that there's some reason, there's some fear behind why someone is not able to let the light shine through them and make themselves visible. That there is some hurt or some suffering that's stuck in there. And so maybe that vision of benevolence might help them to open out and to help them feel safe enough to put forward themselves in a clean and clear way. And I think maybe that's part of our task, isn't it? To help people to be that, and especially people who maybe aren't that as a natural, practice for themselves, which is maybe the majority of all of us, really. And little by little, that's what God is doing for us, is through his benevolences, helping us to be so transparent, like this pure, clear water. And we have so many examples, of course, in front of us. But yes, so the relationship between benevolence and transparency, I think it's very interesting.
That's right. And also when we are transparent, we can touch people's heart, which is a great service. And I remember a phrase that stuck because it's really beautiful, that says, they will love you not because you're perfect, but because you are true. So, and I think also being detached is very much part of transparency, because the more I clean myself and I reach the purest part of me, the original part of me, that detachment will lead to transparency. And this time in Madhuban, I came back with a very specific, determined thought. That was to practice the 1 second rule. In 1 second, I go beyond. In 1 second, I become bodiless. In 1 second, I become silent. Anything that I want to practice connected with 1 second. And I think that detachment is essential to become and keep becoming transparent, and knowing that that's a journey.
Yes, just connected with that, actually, as you were speaking, it came to my mind that when we are able to see inside ourselves, in a sense, even our opaque or obscure parts, which means that we are transparent enough to make them visible to ourselves, I think we can have more empathy for other people's opaqueness, and lack of transparency, and hidden things, and so therefore the connection then with detachment is that by seeing them, there's that love, but also the detachment that it's not such a terrible thing, because I've seen it. I see it in its full darkness, and I'm working on it with God. And so the same thing for others. So maybe we don't have to be shocked by, the lying or the corruption or the whatever might be going on. That yes, it's part of the opaqueness that little by little is leaving us as we allow the light of truth to shine deeper and deeper within us.
Yeah. So I think we reached the end with the meditation, right? Am I wrong, Manoj Bhai?
No, you're not wrong. You're right. But we'll just have a vote of thanks first, and then the announcements and a closing meditation. So all perfect. Thank you so much, both of you. And we'll invite our seniors, Dr. Ashok Mehta and Sister Claudia, to please propose the vote of thanks. Over to both of you. Dr. Mehta first.
Thank you, Sister Antonella and Radha Ben. I saw Radha Ben as a small, very young kid 30 years back. So it's so different to see you today, Radha Ben.
Thank you, Ashok Bhai.
We enjoyed your presentation, both of you. I think basically we are talking of the basic truth. Satyameva Jayate, whatever the truth will prevail. You have to be transparent. It's also, again, reflecting the light within yourself. I think it's very interesting. Somebody said that is to be companion and to be companion of God and to be trusty. I think it's best is to be transparent. I think that's the thing that touched me maximum. I think our life would be different if we are transparent, and everyone is transparent. But most of the time, I think it's the sanskars. When you're young and you tell the truth, people tell you that you shouldn't be telling that. You should always do it in a different way. So try to be opaque a little. I think sanskar is basically what makes you transparent or otherwise. But to be transparent is something which is phenomenal for us as a spiritual individuals. I think we need to be transparent to ourselves and to our companions, and most important to Him, the Supreme. He always says that whatever you've done, you just come and write to me or tell me, and that will be taken care of. I think we need to be transparent if we are not. And to be transparent, a habit to be transparent is excellent. But as I said, most of the time people will try and tell you not to be transparent, not to be truthful, not to tell the truth, because that may hurt someone. So I think it's a walking on a path which is very, very straight and which is very sharp and narrow. So I think the 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 quality of transparency has been brought out in a very sharp focus, both in our discussion as well as in presentation. Thank you very much, both of you, Radha and Sister Antonella. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, Shan.
Shanti, it's nice to hear both of you. It's a pleasure, and especially so important virtues, which is transparency. So it was quite nice talk between both of us. And I think that when we sing, like you said, if a soul is weak and they cannot be transparent because they're hiding their own weakness. And so if we understand that part, we accept more their mistakes and we become a little bit not judging them, but we kind of help that soul to be able to grow and then to be more transparent next time. And as little by little, we can see sometime when the soul is going through that process, how beautiful they come out after that, when they start working on themselves and improving more and more. And I think like you said, by empowering that soul, then we make them to be beautiful, like a light. So where we can see the light shining through them, and then whatever they are doing very beautifully, and then they will just go like that. So I think transparency is also for us, like Dr. Mehta said, sometime we cannot say the right word because the soul is weak, and then they will not take it. So we have just to have that feeling that sometimes they are going to be able to see. But ourselves too, we need to go deep inside, like Sister Radha said, and goes deep inside and check to see how transparent am I? So am I very transparent when I'm trying to hide something inside myself from outside? So when we learn who we are and what we are doing, then we can accept more the other ones. Thank you very much to both of you. It was a pleasure to hear both of you and hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you. And let me just quickly, what I did. Okay, I'll just share the screen and we'll move on to our regular announcements for the next. Yeah. So let's move from Italy. Let's take our flight now northbound towards the UK and southbound to South Africa, because that's what we are having. These two sisters, again, they belong to the IYF, the International Youth Forum, both of them. And we are very glad that we'll be there for the 95th episode on proficiency called Praveenta, which is the next coming Saturday. Sister Gopi from UK and Sister Dipti from South Africa. So we'll be listening to them. And as always, again, the workshop would be on the week after. It will be Sister Sona Bari. Again, she's from, so we take our flight more towards eastwards and come to UAE, Abu Dhabi. She serves there. And as we speak right now, she's in Vietnam. So all these sisters are all over the place serving the globe. So it's good that we are able to get an opportunity to listen to them. And I remember both Sister Antonella and Sister Radha were also, when you all were there before, you all were in Madhuban. Both of you have done your episodes in the past from there. And you all were not comfortable with the value strictness. I know that very well. Transparency is the one which suits you all perfect. Thank you. And yeah, we'll just have this silence retreat as we always do. We end the month with silence retreat on one of the values. So this month end, it will be Sunday, 28 July for morning, India time, and Saturday for the West Coast, 8 to 10 on transparency. These are our, this is an elegant calendar which we have, thanks to Sister Kosha, who does it for us. And yeah, I forgot that the silence retreat will be dedicated to Manmohini Didi, because it is very much, we call the month of her. And she really also was a very transparent soul. We all remember her very fondly. Actually, she's the only official Didi in the Yagya, we say, at Brahma Kumaris. She's the one who got this title of Didi. So that's what we'll dedicate to her. And these are our websites and email addresses. And all these playlists are available. As I said, we are soon coming to an end. So it is a nice treasure house which we have of all these compiled by all the speakers from all over the world. So with this, I'll just stop sharing and I'll request Sister Anu to please go ahead with the photograph. Over to
Yeah.
you.
I'm ready. I'm sure everyone is ready. It's a beautiful moment to take this photo with our beautiful speakers and the treasure that we are taking with us. So yeah, there you go. People are opening up their videos. So yeah, I got it. Thank you so much. Over to you, Manoj brother.
Let's go into the meditation mode before we escape and exit. So will it be Drishti or commentary, whatever suits you?
I think we'd request commentary from one of the sister, and we can take Drishti from the other sister.
Radha, will you do the commentary? Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
So find that comfortable position inside. I visualize myself as that beautiful, luminous being of light, illuminating my whole being, my body, my surroundings. As I connect with the Source, with the Supreme, the luminosity grows so many times. And I allow the light of God's benevolent eye to penetrate deep into my being. I open myself fully, like an open hand. And I welcome the truth, the love, the wisdom. And these are gifts and treasures that I can distribute freely as I remember who is the one who gave me these gifts. I take a moment to enjoy the energy of cleanliness, clarity, and complete transparency, like a diamond with no flaws, where the light passes through, creating beauty and wonder all around. Shanti.
Thank you so much, both of you. And a pleasure to have both of you once.
Thank you.
Thank you.
to everyone.
Thank you, and thank you everyone. See you soon again. Thank you, both sisters.
Thank you.